If you go to my website, I have a financial independence checklist and so many other resources that you can use for free just by visiting firesidechat.com/contact. I want every one of you watching this video to succeed and achieve financial independence. Having financial freedom allows you to buy back time to do things you enjoy doing and make money your tool to achieve your goals. And I created this fire checklist for you guys, and I've been following my own financial principles like this fire checklist to become debt free and save over $400,000 in 5 years between 2016 and 2020. My financial independence journey starting in 2014 when I realized that I was in trouble with my own finances. This screenshot right here was my budget spreadsheet from 2014, and I had almost $110,000 in consumer debt, and I had 2 car loans, a TSP loan, a personal loan, and 5 maxed out credit cards. It took me 2 full years to pay off $47,000 just for my credit cards. I also got rid of my vehicles and paid off my loans by making some sacrifices and working multiple jobs. By the end of 2016, I was debt free and my net worth increased from negative $110,000 in 2014 to positive $40,000. And this was when I started to gain more confidence in my personal finances. If you're brand new to my channel, my name is Sai and welcome. So in this video, I'm gonna go over how my financial independence checklist can help you achieve your financial goals. And I'm gonna show you how I saved and invested over $400,000 from January 2016 until December 2020. I'm gonna give you the full breakdown of my investment returns and savings rate throughout these years. And please keep in mind that I'm not here to brag or show off these numbers. This is not a cringy video. This is purely educational and an attempt to change your financial mindset. Having the right financial mindset is the most important aspect of your financial life because 99% of you will not become millionaires overnight. It will take time, hard work, dedication, and patience. Unless you won the lottery, then make sure to adopt me because I would be your best stepson in the world. So the first thing on my fire checklist is to help you calculate your fire number. And if your annual expenses are $50,000 a year, then your fire number is $1.25 million after you multiply it by 25. If your expenses in early retirement will be higher, like let's say $100,000 a year, then your fire number will be $2.5 million based on the 4% withdrawal rate using the Trinity study. And this is a tough one, and you'll often have to go back to step 1 of this checklist to adjust for inflation, or maybe if you had a significant life event like marriage, divorce, or children. Our fire number right now is $3.7 million, and for the longest time it was $2.8 million. But like many other people, I had a significant life event and married my wife very recently. We're saving at least 65% of our income and investing very aggressively in the stock market so we can retire early by age 45 and travel the world. And going back to 2016, I was working on saving at least 3 months of expenses in my emergency fund. I have $15,500 saved in my Ally Bank high yield savings account by the end of 2020, and that money would cover my car insurance deductible if I ever got into a car accident, medical deductible if I ever had to go to the hospital from getting into a car accident, a plane ticket and hotel to see my family for an emergency visit, or pay my housing expenses for 3 months if I ever lost my job. Having a fully funded emergency fund is equivalent to having a safety net for any unexpected expenses. I wouldn't want to cash out any of my investment to pay for emergency expenses and pay 15% of capital gains tax, right? And if you're just starting to save for your emergency fund, step 2 of my fire checklist is to have you save only up to your deductibles like car insurance, medical, dental, a blown tire, or something else that you need cash for immediately. And once you pay off your debt in step 4, then you're going to fully fund your emergency fund. I always recommend 3 months of expenses if you're in a dual income household and 6 months of expenses if you're in a single income household. So I spent 3 years between 2014 and 2016 completing steps 1 through 5 on my fire checklist. And I somehow still managed to complete step 6, which was to max out my Roth IRA, but not before contributing to my 401k up to my employer match, which is step 3 of this checklist. I was more focused on saving cash for my emergency fund, so I was pretty much all over the place with investments until the end of 2016 when my income started to go up beyond 6 figures. Before going into 2017, I came up with my own investment plan after reading books and journals from the FIRE community, and it wasn't a perfect investment plan, but I knew I wanted to max out my Roth IRA and 401k contributions. In 2017, the maximum 401k contribution was $18,000 and IRA was at $5,500. And because I was completely debt free and had enough cash set aside in my emergency fund, I managed to contribute $692 every paycheck to my 401k. My employer contributed $4,200 for the year to my 401k and $211 every 2 weeks to my Roth IRA. I also opened a taxable brokerage account to invest my excess income into index funds and some individual stocks. Unfortunately, I was not eligible for the HSA at the time. By the end of 2017, the balance for my emergency fund remained the same as in 2016 at $15,500. My travel fund increased from $3,000 to $9,000. My 401k balance increased from $14,000 to $41,000. My Roth IRA balance increased from $6,300 to almost $13,000. I also invested $15,000 into the Vanguard Total Stock Market Index Fund, ticker symbol VTSAX, into my taxable brokerage account, and the ending balance for the taxable brokerage account was about $18,300. The total balance by the end of 2017 was $96,800, and that's an increase from $38,800 to $96,800, or a 149% increase from year over year. By the way, if you need help with your budget, debt, and investments, you can schedule a free one-on-one 20-minute financial coaching session by visiting firesidechat.com/coaching. Going into 2018, my investment strategy with 401k and IRA was pretty much automated. The contribution limit for 401k increased to $18,500, and for IRA, it remained the same at $5,500. As my income went up, I increased my contribution to my taxable brokerage account, and I also decided to open a separate taxable brokerage account that tracked income-based securities or dividend stocks. And you can check out the video I did on how we plan to retire early with dividend income, and I will put the link in the description below. I also decided to change my budget strategy from a zero-based budget strategy to a pay-yourself-first budget strategy. A zero-based budget strategy is basically you prioritize your expenses first and then save and invest with whatever you have left in the budget. The pay yourself first budget strategy is usually for high income earners with no debt by prioritizing their savings and investments first. This budget strategy worked for step 8 of my FIRE checklist, which is to save at least 50% of my income. So I decided to see if I could save half of my income every month, and it worked. And in 2018, I managed to save 50% of my income. In 2019, it was about 55%. 2020 was about 59%, and then 2021 was about 65%. And let me show you the balances from 2016 to 2020 for each portfolio. In my dividend stock portfolio, I started really small for the year 2018 because I was still trying to understand the dividend income strategy. And 2018 was still a rough year to start investing because the year ended with a negative 4% return. And I remember how the year was doing really well until September or October when the Federal Reserve decided to raise interest rates out of nowhere. That's when the stock started to fall in the short term. But if you look at 2019 and 2020, I made everything back into the positive just by dollar cost averaging my investment. I only hold 5 stocks in this portfolio with the balance at $37,000 back in 2020. My goal is to build this portfolio to at least 7 figures in the next 6 to 9 years with a 4% annual dividend yield. In my growth stock portfolio, I started my investment in 2017 with just VTSAX at the time, and I made a 20% return in that first year. And 2018 was at negative 6%, 2019 was almost 28%, and 2020 was another 16%. The biggest thing I want you to pay attention to is my contribution. And I started with $15,000 my first year, $18,000 the second year, $20,000 the third year, and then $30,000 in 2020. At the beginning of every year, I set a goal for how much I'm going to contribute to every portfolio. And I'm a firm believer in increasing my contribution every year. And it doesn't matter if it's just $1,000 or $5,000 or $10,000, my increase in contribution will matter more than the stock market performances. And it's really, really important to understand how this money can work for me in the long run. With compound interest, the $15,000 I contributed back in 2017 grew 20%, 29%, and then 26%. Do you see that this negative 6% return in 2018? If I add it up to the following year at 28%, that's a 34% return because I dollar cost averaged my investment during the market downturn. I didn't care about what the market was doing in the short term. If I believe in the company or the economy in the long term, I'm going to continue to buy without any fear. And 2022 is a prime example of why I'm going to continue to dollar cost average my contributions by buying stocks and index funds every week. And then in my 401k, if you look at 2016, I only contributed $700 because I started my job late in October. My employer at the time matched almost half of that, and the year ended with a 2% return. I only contributed up to my employer's match at 6% of my salary because I wanted to save more cash for my emergency fund. In the following years, I started to pay more attention to the 401k contribution limits, and look at the big difference I made. 2017 was $18,000, and then it went up by $500 every year. My employer match also went up because my income went up, right? So just by contributing a total of $75,000 in 5 years, employer matching at almost $18,000, and earnings and interest at $38,000, my ending balance was at $132,000 in 5 years. And I'm gonna do a video every year around October to give you guys an update on the 401k contribution limits. In my Roth IRA, and keep in mind this is completely separate from my 401k, I maxed out my contribution every year starting in 2016. I only invest in the S&P 500 index fund, ticker symbol VFIAX, in my Roth IRA. In 2018, I had to do what's called a backdoor Roth IRA because my income exceeded the Roth IRA contribution income limits. And if you want to know more about how the backdoor Roth IRA works, I'll link it in the description below. If you see in 2019 and 2020, I was able to double my conversion, and let me briefly explain how this works. If you go to your 401k website and you have the option that says employee after-tax contribution, that's the mega backdoor Roth. And in 2022, you can contribute a total of $61,000, and I also have a video on the mega backdoor Roth in the description below. So for 2019 and 2020, I converted an extra $6,000 a year from 401k to the Roth IRA. Not every employer offers this option, so make sure to check with your employer if you have the excess income to do so. But just by doubling my IRA conversions in those years, my Roth IRA ending balance was almost $60,000 at the end of 2020. So if I add everything up from 2020, my dividend stock portfolio was $37,000, my growth stock portfolio was around $116,000, my 401k at $132,000, and my Roth IRA at $59,000. That's a total of $344,000. I also have $25,000 in my TSP from my active duty military days, $15,000 in the 529, $30,000 in an emergency fund at the end of 2020. My total assets, not including my home equity, car, and business, were about $415,000. And this was not my net worth, but it was just what I had in my retirement and liquid savings. I am currently on step 9 of my FIRE checklist to build generational wealth. My wife and I are working to achieve financial independence and retire early in 9 years. We can absolutely achieve $3.7 million for our Fat FIRE number as long as we do the following. Number 1 is to stay debt free. We never carry our credit card balances, and we're never going to take out any car loans, personal loans, or any other consumer loans. The only loan we would take out is probably the mortgage. We'll start step 10 of our FIRE checklist when we turn 50 years old. And that's when we want to become more risk averse with debt. And just knowing that we have the ability to pay off our home now or at any time is a good feeling to have. Number 2 is to pay ourselves first, always. We'll continue to pay ourselves first by prioritizing our savings and investments. We'll also make sure to set some money aside to have fun. We want to travel the world and start crossing things off on my bucket list. But saving just half of our income makes a big difference in the long term. And number 3 is to be intentional with our spending. If I want to buy something, I usually leave it in the shopping cart for 3 days. And if I still want or need it in 3 days, then I'll buy it. I also buy certain things to save time when I work on projects for my business and I need someone to deliver food so I can maximize my time. Then that's money well spent to me, in my opinion. When we go to a theme park and I'd rather spend the extra $100 so that we get on the roller coaster rides quicker by skipping the line, then that's money well spent. I want you to use your values to make smart financial decisions. Don't spend money on a subscription that you barely use. You should only buy things that will have value or ROI in the long term. And if you want to know more about how to invest for your future, be sure to check out these 2 videos. So with that said, I appreciate you watching my video. Don't forget to subscribe, and I hope to see you in the next video. Have a good one.